Hi, guys. It's me, yours truly, Beverly Sherelle Johnson, lifestyle health coach and consultant, registered nurse for over 33 years, known as the Uncommon Flexitarian and the creator of Eat What. Eat What is my weekly program that gives you resourceful information and education as to the many USDA and FDA food safety and health concerns. Now, I just don't wish to alarm you, but I also wish to give you solutions, concrete solutions to build your immunity, to build your overall health so that you can look good, feel good, and have a more positive outlook on life. Welcome. Welcome to another edition of Eat What. Now, if you are a member of Eat What, please remember that in our private Facebook group, you can always access every recording and every article, everything we've ever done by just tapping the members in our group on Facebook. When you tap on the file, you will see every article that we have posted. And when you tap on video, you will see every program that we've ever done since the beginning. You never have to worry about missing an episode of Eat What. Now be sure to like and share the knowledge that you have received through this program. Don't forget to invite others and let them know all the things that you have learned. All right. Now, we are continuing this week on our topic of educate a woman, educate a nation. Educated woman, educate a nation. This month, as you well know, is Women's History Month. And Women's History Month, we have marked this month talking about many of the health conditions that women face throughout their lifespan. We have talked about many things that some are very specific to women and others that are more general in nature. Well, today is just like the rest of this month has been, and we are talking about a very specific subject that is now getting more attention, but it needs even more light shed upon it. And it is the subject of PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. Okay, post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm sorry, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, PTSD is a condition that affects men and women. However, it is very little evidence that it only there is a lot of evidence. I'm sorry, there's a lot of evidence that PTSD affects twice as many more women than it does men. And there is not a lot of evidence of research, whereas things are being done to correct that. PTSD affects women at a rate of 10 to 12%, but men is only 4 to 5% at best. So more research needs to be done on PTSD. Why women are experiencing more incidences of PTSD, and the differences between men and women regarding PTSD. Now, I'm speaking on some of that today. Now, one article that I have referenced is from Psychology Today, and it's from Dr. Greenberg. And Dr. Greenberg, in this particular article, as well as others that I have researched for today's topic, have stated that both sexual trauma and domestic abuse are at the root cause of many of the PTSDs that women experience. Many of the PTSDs that women experience. The root cause is trauma and or sexual abuse. And the really grievous thing about the sexual trauma and the sexual traumas, which includes abuse and assault, is a lot of times that women are experiencing this as young girls. And when young girls experience sexual trauma, particularly from a family member, from someone they know, then you have issues because the brain is still growing and developing, and it imprints upon the emotional realm of that brain. All right. Therefore, that girl grows into adulthood continually remembering that event from her childhood. It is It is this and many, many other topics and research items that need to be discovered when talking about PTSD that really must be addressed, especially when you are dealing with women. All right. Now, PTSD traditionally, as we all know, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, traditionally has been looked at from a male dominated perspective. And that is a problem because when you have a male dominated perspective applied to women, women are left out because the male dominated perspective says if it doesn't fit, you throw it out. Therefore, women are not being heard. The symptoms that women describing PTSD are not the same as men. Therefore, women are not being heard by their clinicians. The actual trauma, the effects of trauma that a woman experiences as opposed to a man, is totally different. We can say this in one aspect that women are not men, and of course we know women are not men. But when you treat women the same as men, and you put them in the same modality, the modality that predominates our healthcare system, which is a male-dominated perspective, then women are, by design, they are left out. They are left out. They are not heard, and now you have women who are basically dying from the inside out. Why am I saying dying from the inside out? Because PTSD has invisible wounds of continual emotional trauma, continual of acting out, continual phrases and things that are heard, continual self-esteem and self-worth, sabotage, all of these things that affect a woman at her core, at the core of her being. Therefore, that woman goes out into the world already broken, and is expected to function in a world, in a modality, on a career, in a family that is not supportive of her needs. So what can be done about PTSD? Well, there's a lot of research out there, and of course, it begins with women continuing to go to their medical team. And what are you going to your medical team about? You're telling them about what's going on. Because one thing that we don't do, women, we don't want to talk about it because of the shame, because of the guilt. I get it. Because of the shame, because of the guilt, because of what has gone on, we learn not to say anything. And it's that learned behavior of not saying something that is really keeping us sick. We need to ventilate, and our mouths are our ventilators. We need to ventilate and let people know when you're hurting. And if that one individual didn't get it, then you have to go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and you keep going until somebody hears you. You have to be persistent, particularly since we're fighting a centuries old model that says that if you don't fit into my model, then it's not important. All right. So we really have to be persistent and proactive about getting our stories heard. Go to your healthcare providers, your medical doctor of osteopathy, nurse practitioner, herbalist, all those who are on your healthcare team, and talk it out. Let them know what's going on, and don't let them just sweep the rug by saying, well, I think you're exaggerating. I think it's all in. I think if you would just calm down, if you would just be strong, any of these messages and more, which erode your self-confidence, are messages that you don't need to internalize. You don't need to hear. You need to keep going and keep going and keep going until someone hears you. If it's not a male who can hear you, then go to a female. If it's the female that's giving you the resistance, then go to a male. You keep going until you are heard. Now, PTSD doesn't just happen, like I mentioned earlier in my talk. It happens with women as a result of trauma, usually trauma that is the root cause of the trauma being a sexual trauma or a domestic abuse. And domestic abuse can be not only physical abuse, but emotional abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse. Yes, all of this where women are not being realized as their whole entire persons, all right? Where you are not valued as a human being. You're not valued as a member of society, where you are not valued. And it comes out in many, many areas. We are seeing now that women are starting to speak out, even in the churches. Women, women all over the world are speaking out in their churches, in their synagogues, in places of worship, are not feeling valued. They are not feeling valued, and they are addressing situations that have gone on. And I applaud that, because in a male dominated society, in a male dominated perspective, and anything that has to do along those lines, you have not fit in. You have not fit in. In fact, you have had to not be you, so to speak, not be you. You've had to either dumb some things down, or you've either had to pretend like you got along with everything that was being said. That wasn't you being authentic. That was you just trying to get along. And why should you have to do that? All of that feeds into PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. Post traumatic stress, the traumas that we experience as young women, as the research from Dr. Greenberg stated, the traumas that we experience as young girls, whether it's sexual trauma, domestic abuse, or a combination of both, have a lasting imprint on how we live the rest of our lives. If you're told to be quiet, if you're told to shut up, if you're told not to say anything, if you're told to hide, if you're told to, don't cry about it. This is just what goes on in this family. This is, this just don't say anything. These are things that keep you sick. These are things that keep the stories going from generation to generation to generation, and no one ever gets healed. One thing that I can say, women who speak out using their mouths as the ventilators of the heart that is in pain, they get help. And you won't get help unless you take that massive action. Let someone know. It's a big step to open up your mouth and say something when something is wrong, no matter if it is domestic abuse. And again, domestic means physical, mental, emotional, financial, all of the types of abuses, or sexual trauma, which includes abuse and sexual assault, which includes rape. All right, molestation and rape. None of that is funny, and none of that should be going on where you are devalued as a human being. And one thing I can say also, that things are moving in the direction as they should be, to provide more research as to why and how women are expressing PTSD symptoms to their family doctors, or to persons who are able to help them. So we as clinicians, those of us who diagnose and treat, we have to be able to hear what is not traditionally termed as a symptom of PTSD. All right. And what are the symptoms of PTSD? It can give you a little bit of insight there, where if you are someone, or if someone is talking to you and they're continually to relive a negative event in their life, something that was very, very negative, happened to them in childhood, maybe it happened to them in adulthood, but they're continually reliving this. And continual means more than 1 month past the event. You possibly could be dealing with a person who has PTSD. If this same individual starts exhibiting symptoms of withdrawal, they don't want to be around the abuser. They separate themselves from people, places, or things that remind them of the hurt and of the pain that they have been through. If they start withdrawing, then certainly, yes, you could be dealing with someone who has experienced PTSD. The person, if the person is having outbursts, anger, or emotional outburst, or sudden crying outburst, any of these emotional outbursts, you could be dealing with someone who has PTSD. And for instance, If their thought patterns are not consistent, they have memory impairment, all right, or they have the self-esteem is so negative that they're continually blaming themselves for events that they have no control over. You could possibly be dealing with someone who has PTSD. Now, this is very, very, like I said, this is very, very brief description of some symptoms of PTSD, but this is very, very important that we hear in a different way, because PTSD was out there, and it's out there long before the acronyms PTS and D were put together. Women were already suffering trauma. Women were already suffering abuse. And who was hearing it? Very little, very few, if any at all. So we really have to start listening better. If you have a friend, a female friend, or someone you can go to, and or someone or someone maybe who has come to you, and they start talking to you, and it starts lining up with some of the things that I've said here, refer them for counseling. Refer them who can help them, connect them with a healthcare team, or suggest that they go for counseling. Counseling is all around us, particularly now in this continual COVID-19 happenings that's going on right now. And believe you me, at this point, I know we're 2 years past the initial start of what we now term as COVID-19, but my personal opinion, it's not over yet. And that's just me. That's just an aside. That's just me. Well, if we have to listen differently. We have to listen and hear differently, and not just brush it off as to someone. I wish they would get over it. I wish so and so would stop crying. I wish so and so would stop leaning into the drugs, leaning into the alcohol. That's another symptom that it could be something more at the root of the problem. When you have someone who leans into the abuse of drugs and or alcohol, or even of food, or overeating, or abstaining from food way too long, these are signs that could be indicative of someone is experiencing some type of traumatic stress, and it may be diagnosed later as PTSD. These are things that we can notice as friends, as family members, and help that individual get the help that they need. Now, if you have a religious connections, whereas you have a pastor or person in relationship who is able to hear, your concerns and act objectively, then by all means, talk to that individual as well. And if you are in a situation, where you need to get out, and of course, there are always avenues and ways that you can get out, but make sure that you talk with someone who can actually help you make a plan and make a path so that you can leave an abusive situation. And it does not matter how old you are, it does not matter how young you are. Pain is pain in every language, pain is pain at every stage of life, and you do not need to live with the pain. All right. You do not need to live with the pain. You need to find someone who will help you so that you can turn your pain into a plan and walk out that plan in a path so you can have healing. Now, I'm not saying that you won't ever talk to the abuser again. That's far beyond my scope here. But I would not like for you to talk to someone who's abusing you again. But that's not for me to say. I don't know your different situations out there, but PTSD is real, abuse is real. All of these things that lead up to the diagnosis that we now know as PTSD in women is very, very real. It has been going on for centuries now, and it's now finally getting some light on the subject. So what should you do? Invite someone to talk to you about their experiences. If you know someone who is experiencing symptoms such as this, invite them to talk about their experiences and direct them to someone, taking them by the hand if you have to, directing them to someone who can actually help them, who can actually help them. All right. That is so very, very important, because the one that's being abused needs to know that there is a friend. There is someone out there who actually cares. There's a lot of mixed messages out there. A lot of mixed messages to say, oh, you'll be all right. All you got to do is be strong. All you got to do is have faith. And how can you have all of these things if you're reliving the experience over and over and over again? You're not getting healed. You can't put a band-aid over an open wound and don't expect to have problems. You need to heal from the inside out, from the bottom of the wound all the way up to the surface. And that's what needs to happen for you on the inside. You need to heal from the inside out, from the inside out. And that's where true healing begins, from the inside out. So when your mouth ventilates what's in the heart, then it will speak of the healing that has gone on from the inside of you. All right. So again, we're talking about PTSD. We're talking about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is the result of chronic stress in an area where an individual cannot get past a negative event, a sudden negative event in their life. For women, I've discussed that it occurs more frequently in women than it does men, and the root cause of this the root cause of PTSD diagnosed in women, the root cause of it is sexual trauma and or sexual abuse, and or domestic abuse, and or domestic abuse. PTSD has been diagnosed that it occurs twice as much as more in men, 10 to 12% in women, as compared to 4 to 5% in men, even though men have gone through combat situations. And when it comes to looking at the brain, looking at the brain, for those of us who are clinicians involved in sciences such as that, we all know that the brain, the right side of the brain, holds the emotionality, I should say, of our human existence. Also on the right side of the brain is where the centers for stress, or how to deal with stress, it also lies there on that right side of the brain. So it could possibly be that as women experience stress, and prolonged stress, chronic stress, and stress that can be termed as being a precursor to a diagnosis of PTSD, that it could be that our response to the stress is just quite different from men. Women are not men. We are not men. And we cannot be put into a modality or to a mode or to anything that says that we have to look, act, or think this way. We are not men. And our healthcare team has to recognize that also. We have to recognize that when women express PTSD, the symptoms of PTSD, the inability to sleep, feeling alone, or hypervigilant, being hypervigilant. These are some of the things that you may notice, or someone may express. They feel like they're in danger at all times, or the total withdrawal out of things that used to bring them joy. When you're looking at things like that, you might, like I said, you might be dealing with someone with PTSD. Encourage them to get help. Encourage them to talk to someone who can actually help them make a plan and make a path so they can get out, so they can be healed. Now, these are things that you can do as a friend, or if you know it's something that's going on in a family member's life, you can help in that manner, okay, and help put a stop to whatever is going on. Now, one thing I want to mention when we're talking about families, we keep a lot of secrets. One thing I am one who grew up in a household where you were not allowed to talk about what went on inside that household. So I get it, but that's not what is the healthiest for those who are experiencing or who have experienced trauma. All right, you need to talk about it. So if going to Uncle X's house or Auntie Z's house, had a negative effect on you as a child, or there was any type of abuse, sexual or domestic or anything like that, that should be spoken. So those who are in authority, who are supposed to take care of you, can stop that, can stop the visits. They can stop the contact. That brings you restoration. It brings you healing. It restores your faith and your trust. Okay, and which is really eroded when you have someone who does not pay attention to you. All right, we need to talk about the stories. We need to talk about what goes on in our families. We need to talk about that and stop trying to hide them under the rug by saying, well, that's just so and so, and that's just this and that. There's a lot of things that we can heal within our own selves if we would just talk. And it might mean that there's some embarrassing situations may come out. It doesn't mean that you have to put it on the front news, but it does mean that you should seek help for that. The cycle will continue unless you stop the cycle. Unless you stop the cycle, unless you take it upon yourself to say enough is enough. A lot of people who abuse have come from families where there were abusers. And a lot of victims of abuse have come from a lot of families that were victims of abuse. It's somewhere along the life, somewhere along your time, you have to stop. Take the massive action to stop saying enough is enough and get healing. All right. Don't just stop what you're doing and think that that's enough. No, get healed, going to someone who can actually help. It does no good. It does no good to talk to someone who's just going to gossip. You need to talk to someone who is going to help you. And when it comes to things such as this PTSD, this is very, very serious. It's very, very serious for men and women, but particularly for women, as we are more than twice as likely to be diagnosed, now that there is a diagnosis for it, now for diagnosed with receiving PTSD, and yet still nothing is being done. All right. Or I'm not saying nothing as a total, nothing is being done, but not enough. Definitely not enough is being done. All right. We need, as the healthcare industry, as an entire industry, we need to have a male-dominated perspective and have a more inclusive perspective and break away from an old antiquated mode that says if you don't fit, I reject you. All of this is a part of women's self-esteem, because we've never fit in and we've never fit that mold. And on another note, all the accolades that we can give women, or all the titles we like to give women. Oh, this woman is a queen. This woman is this. All the letters before and behind her name don't mean as much if you don't value her. What does it mean if your words are empty and lack integrity? They lack honesty because you don't value her as a person. These are things we really have to look at in our own societies and determine what direction are we really going to go. What are we really going to say? What are we really going to do? How are we really going to act when it comes to women? Are we just going to let the status quo continue? We already know it's not working. We already know women are increasingly becoming more and more affected, affected meaning that more and more diagnoses are being given to women with this with PTSD. And what are we doing? Is sometimes it's not another pill. It's not another dose of medication. What we need to do is just get to the root cause and stop things at the root cause. And let me just mention, I did mention that PTSD was first of all diagnosed as related to men in combat. But remember, women who were not allowed in the military at first. I did grow up in an era where women, first of all, were not allowed in the military. And then when they were allowed in the military, they were not allowed to participate in combat. So all of these statistics regarding women in combat, or women feeling stressed, or being diagnosed as PTSD, this is rather new. What I'm saying is women have been experiencing signs and symptoms of PTSD or chronic stress that have way before the diagnosis, even before the diagnosis, when it was being diagnosed for men, and that we have not been heard. So women, I implore you, this is something that is very, as you can tell, very near and dear to my heart, because when we hurt from the inside out, we hurt from the inside out. We wear so many masks as women. We wear so many masks. We've been taught how to get along, how to dumb it down, how to remain quiet, and how to stop crying, stop being so emotional, stop being this, be strong. All these other messages that have nothing to do with with our self-esteem being elevated. What we need is the partnership with each other and with others who have the mindset that something different needs to happen, change needs to occur, and a different approach needs to be made, especially in this area of PTSD. Women need to be heard. We need to vocalize, and we need to recognize the signs of chronic stress, whether it's diagnosed as PTSD or not, in other women. All right. And we can start looking at our own households. We can don't, I always invite people to look where you are first before you go looking in someone else's house. Look where you are first and determine, that's some of the secrets. I mean, if these secrets, what could have been different for your life, for the life of your daughter, for the life of your son, if these secrets would have been told, because every family has secrets. Every family has secrets. Every family has something that they don't want anybody else to know. But it's because everyone else in the family doesn't know. That's what's really hurting. And we hurt from the inside out. So we put on so many masks. We have so many roles that we have to play outside, a job, career, home, family, you name it. We have to adapt to it. But on the inside, we're disintegrating. On the inside, we're not whole. On the inside, we're just not connecting. We're not connecting with what is vital and healing for us. And that's what needs to happen if we're going to continue to thrive. No more uncelebrated seasons for women. We need to heal from the inside out. No more taking on additional roles without healing from the inside out. No more of these external accolades and titles, which makes the speaker believe that tries to make the speaker believe that they actually value you when they actually don't. PTSD is real, and for one, don't call me your queen or anything else if you don't value me. If you don't value me, all right? It's just the way it is. And I'm sure many other women feel the same way. Well, guys, on talking about PTSD today, talking about PTSD and some of the signs and the symptoms of PTSD, some of the things that we can look out for in our children, in our family members, in our co-workers. PTSD is a diagnosis that's fairly new, but it has root causes and old hurts and pains that have been going on for centuries. Again, you notice persons that continually are reliving a negative experience, as it could be a symptom of PTSD. If noticing a withdrawal or your anger outburst, or there's mood impairment, all of these things could be symptoms of someone experiencing PTSD. The dependence upon alcohol or illicit drug use, even overeating, or abstaining from eating for a period of time that is really unhealthy. It could be any of these behaviors and more could be signs of chronic stress, could be diagnosed as PTSD. What you can do is get that individual to help. As always, if you think that you're experiencing PTSD, go to your healthcare team. If your healthcare team, particularly if they are not familiar with the symptoms, or they are not listening to you, they're not listening to you, then go to someone who is listening to you so that you can get that help. You can get the help, the counseling. You'll be able to talk it out, be able to heal from the inside out, and stop wearing a mask saying that it's okay when it's really not okay. But that's all I have for you today, guys. Just wanted to really emphasize PTSD because it affects all of us. It affects us as family members. It affects us in the workplace. It affects us in our churches, in our places of worship. It affects us everywhere. And the signs and the symptoms, particularly for women, are not known. They are not. And women, if you are suffering, you really need to get connected. I cannot emphasize that enough. Get connected with your healthcare team so that you can get the help that you need. All right. So please do that for yourself. Do that for yourself. Your medical doctor, doctor osteopathy, nurse practitioner, herbalist, all those who are involved with your health, with your health, all those who are involved with your health. All righty. And by doing so, you'll be able to heal yourself, able to stop the trauma, stop the negative cycle, start a cycle of abundant thinking. Instead of negative thinking, you have abundant thinking, which produces more and more abundance, help, healing, wholeness, satisfaction in life. All righty. And it's with genuine, authentic. The authentic you will show up from the inside out. I will see you guys next time on another edition of Eat What. Right, we may tackle another topic on this subject, but just wanted to round out the 4-week discussion of Women's History Month by ending with this topic of PTSD, what more needs to be done, and what we might be already seeing in family members and those around us, and what we can do to help others get help. All righty, so I will see you next time on another edition of Eat What. Until then, help someone out. Continue to celebrate women all during the month of March for Women's History Month. Definitely do that. Definitely do that. But if you see someone who needs help, think it not robbery for you to guide them to help, to encourage them to get help, to get connected with their healthcare team, or get connected with counseling. A lot of free counseling services in the area, particularly in this era of COVID-19. There's a lot of help available out there. Get connected. Get connected. A lot of free services. You can do virtual or in person. Get connected to help. That's my emphasis. That's what we're talking about today. Talk to you next time, next Thursday. Another edition of Eat What. Until then, bye-bye.